Hi everybody. I want to do my book superlatives for the year. I really enjoy picking apart like what was the best romance or best fantasy or what book made me laugh. I think that's really fun to do. So that's what I want to do today. So I actually looked on Book Talk and BookTube and I watched several people's videos and then I have just pulled questions and just kind of made my own list. There's 16 questions. Let's get started. All right, first question is what was my quickest read? And I actually read several books in less than 24 hours. So we have The Housemaid I read in less than 24 hours, Just for the Summer. Finale I know I read in less than 24 hours. I also read, I think, all three of these books in either less than 24 hours or I don't know, one of them might have been 2 days, but I flew through these really fast as well. The longest book I read is Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson. I own the other four and I don't own this one. It is on my wish list. I will have it soon, but this was the longest. So the book that I cried the most, I don't remember sobbing in any of these books this year, but I did tear up and get sad. I do remember like tearing up and being sad reading Divine Rivals, Ruthless Vows, but I wasn't like full on sobbing. Same with this trilogy. I remember being sad, getting like a couple tears in my eyes, but not overflowing. This is the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. And Oathbringer, I just mentioned that was the longest. I finished that way back in January. I think I remember tearing up in that book too. I'm about to reread it, listening to the audiobook this time around, so we'll see if it happens again. Question 4, the book I laughed the most. I know for sure that was Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. I don't really laugh at books. I have a sense of humor, but most of the books I read are like sad or they're these like big epic fantasies and they're not really funny, but this book was making me laugh out loud. If you have read it, you know the parts I'm probably referring to. It was so funny. This is short. It's a standalone. I highly recommend this one if you haven't read it yet. It is so good. Brandon Sanderson wrote this for his wife, and it's a fun adventure similar to like think of The Princess Bride out on the ocean, but it's not a normal ocean. It's just read this. If you like fantasy, try this one. It's so unique. It's so good. Best plot twist. I did not read a lot of books this year that had plot twists. I can think of two. One of them was good, and I kind of guessed it, but not all the way. And one of them I hated. So the plot twist I hated, I read recently, and it's Metal Slinger. Metal Slinger. And the book was like a decent book, a decent romantasy up until the plot twist, and I hated the plot twist. I know some people on Book Talk like loved that book. I got in Goodreads and a lot of people also felt the same way I did about the plot twist and kind of made me feel better about it. But I hated it. It kind of ruined the book for me and I don't plan on continuing, to be honest. The Housemaid had an awesome plot twist and I did somewhat guess. I don't read a lot of thrillers, and so but I was kind of proud of myself for kind of somewhat guessing that plot twist. Next book on the shelf I've avoided, that would be Iron Flame. I read Fourth Wing last year and I pre-ordered this and then I've not touched it. So it's just sat on my shelf. And I feel like I was nervous that because I was someone that did enjoy Fourth Wing, that this would just let me down and it would be disappointing. And then I did hear some people say it was disappointing. I think I just put it off. And then I know the third is coming out here in a matter of like weeks. So my thought is, I am right now in the middle of rereading a series, but I think I'm going to, in January, reread Fourth Wing, then pick this one up for the first time, then read Onyx Storm, and maybe review them as I go, but that is my plan. So I've just put it off and just avoided it, honestly. Number 7, book I regret buying. I have not bought a lot of books this year. I actually use my library, and then if I really loved the book, then I buy it. So of course I'm not going to regret any of those. The only thing I could really think of was maybe Metal Slinger because I got it on my Kindle. It was just an ebook though. It wasn't much, so I can't really regret that. Like, it's not a big deal, but I just, like I said, didn't really enjoy the ending and stuff. And so I guess I kind of regret that one. But oh, I did just see one over on my nightstand. Let me go grab it. So I read Magnolia Parks and I ate it up. I loved it. I knew what it was going into it, thought it was so good. Okay, then Daisy Hates. I decided to just go ahead and buy it. Like, I'll buy Magnolia Parks later. Let's just buy this one. The reason why is because it wasn't ready at the library. I wanted to keep reading. I thought this would be a continuation where Magnolia Parks left off, and now Daisy's just like the main character. No, like everything, it's like in the same timeline, but just through Daisy's. And I feel like that totally screwed up the book for me, so I wasn't excited to read it anymore. And I was just making myself kind of go through, wasn't really connecting with the people, didn't really care. I know I'm in the minority here because I think a lot of people actually really like her and not actually like Magnolia Parks as much. So I am only still on page 200, and it's not that I hate it. I just feel like I wasn't really connecting and don't really care. So I do, this is actually a goal of mine to finish this before the year's over, because I don't like leaving a bunch of like loose ends. So I hope it gets better. And then, like I said, I was really like enjoying the first one. So now I'm kind of like, okay, I should have just bought the first and not bought this one, because it's like, whatever. It's fine. I'll probably like it more later. I don't know. Best cover, I would go with One Dark Window or the UK edition for the Once Upon a Broken Hearts trilogy. I ended up getting this for my birthday, and I just think it's gorgeous. But One Dark Window is also really, really pretty and kind of that cool, like spooky. It's cool. Next question, most worth the hype? In my opinion, again, I would go with these are worth the hype, but obviously that's just my opinion. I loved these and flew through them, and they were some of my absolute favorites of the year. Obviously you might think differently, but just my opinion. Not worth the hype. This one is gonna be an unpopular opinion, but I'm just being very honest. So One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns. I just mentioned it has gorgeous covers. To me, it was underwhelming. It's not that I disliked it and hated it. It was just fine, and it was good. It was fine. I just didn't think it was worth the hype, and I'm in the minority. Like, no one thinks that. Everyone loves it. It was just fine. I don't know. I didn't really connect with the characters, and like I said, I just thought it was kind of underwhelming. And I wanted to like it. I really wanted to love it, and it was just okay. So that was kind of disappointing, honestly. And I wonder if I did hear about it too much and hear too much hype. And I'm wondering if I had just found it on my own and knew nothing going in. I'm wondering, honestly, if it would have made it better for me a little bit, maybe a smidge. But yeah, expectations can really mess up a book sometimes. Best Romantasy is, once again, Worth the Hype, Divine Rivals, and Once Upon a Broken Heart for me. Best fantasy would be the Stormlight Archives for me. Oh, I was trying to find the book and it was under my coffee. So I started this for the first time last year, and I am currently rereading them through the audiobooks, and then yeah, I'm still not finished. There's 5 out, but this wins best fantasy for me. I know it is big, but if you like fantasy, do yourself a favor and pick up The Way of Kings. It is so good. I also think some people get freaked out about the Cosmere order. I would say don't stress about it too much. Some people don't know where to start. I would say read what this one's about, and if you think it sounds good, just dive in, like if you love fantasy. Or dive into Mistborn. Start there. If you just want a standalone but again, you like fantasy, try Trust of the Emerald Sea. I don't know, just try one. And I think people get all stressed out about where to start. I don't think it matters that much personally. Best romance book. I am very, very picky about romance. I like romance, but usually I like it as a subplot in my books, if I'm being completely honest. Like a fantasy and then a subplot of romance. But here and there, I can read a romance book. It just depends. My favorite was probably Yours Truly, or Just for the Summer. Yours Truly might beat it a little bit. It was so, so good, and it makes me more excited for her future books coming out. It was really good. Number 14, most pleasantly surprising. I'm gonna go with Quicksilver. This is a romantasy, and I did say before, I do feel like it's, you know how some people will compare like books to ACOTAR, and they'll do it way too often. If you liked ACOTAR, this is probably, for me personally, the closest romantasy I've ever read where I'm like, oh, that's so similar. I would bet money on if someone loved and just like ate up the ACOTAR series that they would enjoy Quicksilver. That's how I feel. And I think it was just now traditionally published. I don't own my own copy because I read it back when it was like on Kindle Unlimited and I read it on my Kindle. I wouldn't mind getting my own copy though. The cover's not the best in my opinion, but some people love it. That's fine. It was very pleasantly, I was very surprised. I thought it was very good. Number 15, what book let me down the most? I have two here. I have for fantasy and then non-fantasy. For fantasy, this one let me down the most. I am a fan of Sarah J. Maas. If you don't know, I love the Throne of Glass series, and I have so many book reviews and stuff on this channel talking about the Throne of Glass series. I also love ACOTAR. I don't think I have any videos on that though. Crescent City is maybe just not for me. I'm just not a fan of it. The first book I thought was good and entertaining, and the second book I didn't love, and it put me in such a bad slump, and I couldn't finish it. Had to stop, and then the next year just made myself finish it. I bought this, and gosh, I feel like I was just reading and reading. I couldn't. And it's a big book to, not like really want to read it. So once again, I have done a soft DNF. And then by the time the next book comes out, maybe I will just force myself to get through this, which sounds silly, I know. But yeah, I think it's okay. It's okay to not love every single book by an author. And because I do consider her to be a favorite author, but it's okay if I don't. I'm just not a fan too. I figured out I do like some urban fantasy where it's mixed into real life and there's like magic and stuff. Sometimes, if it's done right, I like that. But in general, I enjoy more of the fantasy that's like with horses and swords, bows and arrows. I'm not a big fan of where they have cell phones and swords, and it's just like weird to me and confusing. And I'm just not a big fan. It's just not a favorite. So this was disappointing, but it probably shouldn't have been disappointing because I probably should just expect it to disappoint me by now. For non-fantasy, I would say Funny Story by Emily Henry because I'm a big Emily Henry fan, and this was disappointing. It was probably my least favorite of hers so far. I liked the beginning, and then I got really kind of bored, and it was just fine, and then it kind of picked up later. But yeah, it's not a bad book. It was just disappointing as in like, maybe I had too high of expectations because I loved her other books. Maybe. Most anticipated for 2025. So I took this two ways. I took this as in, what am I excited to come out in 2025 and read? And then just what am I excited to read in 2025? But it's not necessarily coming out. So for what's coming out, I'm going to say You'll Remember Me. And like I said, I love these last ones, so I'm excited for this one. And then for just me, my own TBR, what I'm excited to read is I'm excited to finally, for the first time, pick up Rhythm of War and this massive Wind and Truth, because I've, like I said, this series has made my all-time top favorites list, but I've only read 3 of them, plus novellas. I haven't read these last 2. So hopefully I love these as much as the rest. But yes, I'm going to read these early 2025. Very excited to get to them. It's a lot. And that is all the questions. Let me know if we have anything in common, if you also loved any of these books, or maybe tell me like what you're most excited for 2025. And thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a very Merry Christmas, and I'll see you later. Bye.